Tuesday at 6 p.m., James, was the Major League Baseball trade deadline. What a crazy day Tuesday was. It seemed like, days leading up to it, the first, 3 days out, 2 days out, you were kind of waiting for something to happen, waiting for the big moves to be made. We had Andrew Benintendi going to the Yankees, and then there was kind of a long haul. And a week ago, we made our prediction of 5 players: Juan Soto, Castillo, Paulo Lopez, Will Contreras, and Frankie Montas. We predicted where all 5 would go. I mean, James, it was crazy. I think the first thing we have to talk about is Juan Soto. He was the story of the deadline, one of the greatest young players we've ever seen. And he gets traded along with his teammate Josh Bell to your division. You don't like them being called division rival, but your division peer, the San Diego Padres. What's your reaction to Juan Soto being in the division? You'll be playing him this weekend. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, maybe they're making a step towards coming to that rival again. They have 100 years of history to overcome, so I don't think they'll ever do it. But certainly, if you're looking at San Francisco versus San Diego much more competitive. Yeah, I love the move. Juan Soto is awesome. I'm just excited to get to watch him that much more frequently and as good. Look, their top 3 is going to be ridiculous when healthy. Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, and Juan Soto. It looks like my Diamond Dynasty lineup on MLB The Show, not a real MLB franchise. But I'll tell you, I'm not worried. I am not worried in the slightest. In fact, I think they may have handicapped their ability to secure quality pitching in the next decade, pending they do sign him to an extension, which is a huge question mark. So I don't know. I think San Diego, it's probably a good move. They lose C.J. Abrams, they lose Mackenzie Gore, a lot of their young prospects and talent. Of course, the Hosmer stuff we can talk about. Luke Voigt kind of caught the shortest end of the stick there, being the extra toss in. But look, I can't wait to see this lineup banging. Last night, they were looking incredible. Brandon Drury, also acquired by the Padres from the Reds. It's a grand slam on his first pitch. Can't wait to see this lineup healthy. They're not winning the NL West, and that's what it comes down to, and I'm so confident. Look, they may be within single-digit games back, though, now, so good trade on that regard.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to win the division this year. I think it's too late and they're too far back. But it's an impressive thing, like you said, having Machado, Tatis, and Juan Soto, and you said it might inhibit them from getting pitching. They just signed Joe Musgrove to a long-term extension. They've got Darvish, Manea. They've got a great rotation that's working for them. Mackenzie Gore was planning on being a big piece of that, but I think you look, the Padres GM. He really has no fear. He went all out on this, traded, a ton of their young best prospects to get Josh Bell and to get Juan Soto. Is it worth it? We'll see. We'll see if they win a World Series out of it. If you go around that infield, though, Josh Bell at first, Cronenworth at second, who's an all-star, Tatis at short, Machado at third, with Juan Soto in the outfield, Trent Grisham. This is a really packed lineup. And it'll make these Dodgers-Padres series, specifically this one this weekend, really exciting. They also got Josh Hader from the Brewers, which is a pretty interesting move. So, what a trade deadline it was for them. Juan Soto, Josh Bell, Josh Hader, and Brandon Drury. Couldn't have been much better than that.
They had the
I'm
best
sure Padres fans are very excited.
best trade deadline by far. Their team got significantly better. And look, you can't fault San Diego. It's pretty cool to see they're going up against LA, one of the biggest dogs, almost unlimited resources, and to see them shove all in and go, no, give me Juan Soto. I can't wait to see Tatis and Juan Soto playing together. It's going to be so awesome. It's almost must-watch baseball, this lineup. As you said, even Grisham down in the bottom holes. It's a good lineup. It's just they're still going to be a little brother. That's just the crux of it.
Yeah, from quickly on like a Cardinal perspective of it, well, I guess twofold. One, the Cardinals are kind of in the mix. It came out that they were out of it before the trade deadline day. Not super unexpected. I'm glad we didn't give up Dylan Carlson. A lot of people on Cardinal Twitter were freaking out that, Dylan Carlson, we should give him up for Soto. I disagree. I think Carlson's great. But the Cardinals are now competing for a wild card spot with the San Diego Padres and the Atlanta Braves. And then that third spot is kind of between the Phillies and the Cardinals at this point. And the Phillies also made some moves, right? They got Brandon Marsh from the Angels. I think they made a couple more moves, but I can't remember right now. Um, but I mean, it's pretty scary having a team that good be in second place of the division and be fighting for wild card spots. So the Padres are scary. I think I said in one of our preview videos that, I could see Soto in those gray, yellow, brown uniforms, and I must say, I mean, he looks pretty good in them. I think they fit him, and it's going to be fun to watch that team. I think these past 2 days have been must watch baseball, must watch Padre baseball for sure.
I'm excited, Max. What I'm interested in is this extension. Of course, Scott Boras is a walking mafia hitman. And the second he was traded, they immediately were like, "Sweet, you want to sign long term?" And he's like, Scott told me I'm not allowed to talk to you," basically. So we'll see how that plays out. Nothing would make me laugh harder in the entire universe than if Juan Soto's like, "Yeah, by the way, I'm not signing an extension," and then they just traded mortgage basically their entire future for a year and a half of a guy. I will say they're going to be terrifying as a wild card game, though. If you have a 3-game series against that team healthy, like I don't really want to play in that. 7 games, I'd take LA, but a 3-game series, I don't want that. Too explosive of an offense.
It is, and it's interesting. And before we get into some other trades, if you think about how the playoffs are structured this year, the 3 seed will play the 6 seed. So the 3 seed being the worst of the division winners, and then the 4 and 5 seeds will play. Which right now in the National League, the 3rd seed would be the Milwaukee Brewers by only half a game over the Cardinals, who would play the Cardinals, and the 4-5 matchup would be Padres Braves. So it seems to me if you're the Braves, right, or the Padres, whoever's in the 5th spot, they won't do this. But if you tank to the 6th spot, you would get to play the Brewers, and then though whoever's the number 1 overall seed, probably the Dodgers, over playing either the Braves or Padres, one of those teams. So maybe a little gamesmanship could be done there. And it's a very similar situation in the American League with the Twins and Guardians not being very good. But regardless, I mean, it's a pretty insane trade, kind of shakes up everything in the National League.
Also,
But James, throw us somewhere else.
I think one that I want to talk about is a guy who was on the Mariners heavy early, and I love this. If you're a Mariners fan, you have to be so thrilled with the organization going out, throwing some prospects around, bringing in Luis Castillo, a true ace for this team, again with Logan Gilbert, Robbie Ray now. That's a no joke rotation. I love the Mariners' longest playoff drought in baseball. So to see that fan base finally, you have Julio bumping, they're making the push. Awesome from the front office, because the Mariners really, I don't think anyone thought they were going to hop in at the deadline, but they're making a push, baby. They're playoff bound.
Yeah, it came out. Luis Castillo was the Mariners' top target. They figured they needed to get more pitching depth. They've got a pretty decent rotation, but adding a real number 1 ace can only help them. I think for Seattle, this kind of solidifies their identity as a team that's trying to win right now. They think they have a team good enough. They have the talent. They've made a ton of moves in the offseason, and now adding another pitcher to solidify that core says that the Mariners believe in them. They believe they can break this drought and they can get into the postseason and make some noise. So I love it. I think having Robbie Ray, having Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, those are guys you can throw in deep into postseason games, thinking like game 5, game 6, game 7 of an ALCS, right? So I think it's a huge move. I love it. I'm glad that Castillo didn't go to, I think you predicted the Yankees, I predicted the Dodgers. I'm happy to see he ended up somewhere else, and I think Seattle's a great fit.
I've gotten a lot of King Felix comparisons up in Seattle so far. So I like that. It's one of the reasons I necessarily, of course, I wanted Juan Soto on the Dodgers, but I like the parody of baseball. Like I'm happy that instead of Castillo just being the 5th arm on the Yankees, like he gets to go out and be a bona fide ace on a team. So that was a really awesome move. I think other pitching stuff, we missed all of our predictions, I'm pretty sure. But if you're ready, I'd say another pitcher to talk about. Obviously, the Yankees bolstering their rotation with Frankie Montas from the A's. Pretty good pickup there. I think that's a pretty scary Garrett Cole, Montas, and Luis Severino. That's a pretty good 1, 2, 3 right there.
Nestor Cortez.
Oh, and I mean, how can you forget Nasty Nestor, who's really the real ace of the program? It's going to be, don't want to use his other name that got that radio guy in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I think Frankie's great. They needed pitching. They needed some more depth, especially with the other move that we'll talk about next. I think Frankie Montas is a huge pickup for the Yankees. He was one of the number one pitchers in the market, maybe right behind Castillo. So the Yankees got their guy, and I mean they're look, they have 71, 72 wins or something like that. This is a team that's gonna be in the ALCS, if not the World Series. So having Frankie Montas only helps that. Speaking of their rotation, Jordan Montgomery traded to the St. Louis Cardinals, 1-for-1 for Harrison Bader, two-time, I think maybe three-time Gold Glove center fielder, best defensive center fielder in baseball. Let me talk about this real quick. So I think my initial gut reaction was, oh my God, I can't believe we just traded Harrison Bader. He's a stud. He's loves being in St. Louis. He's just, I mean, like the dude is a class act. He's a class act. He's the best defensive center fielder in baseball. He's super fun to watch. But then, so initially, I was super upset. I was super frustrated about it. But look, the Cardinals need pitching. Jordan Montgomery is a very good pitcher, right? He's had about a 3 ERA his whole career, like between 3 and 4, 3.4, 3.5. Upwards of 10 strikeouts per game. He averaged 11.9 one year. It's a good trade for the Cardinals. The Cardinals, they knew what they needed to do this offseason. They needed to get Jose Quintana and now Jordan Montgomery as well. They needed to replace Steven Matz and fill in some of the Palante starts. So it's a good trade. It sucks to lose Bader, but at the end of the day, he gets hurt a lot. He's dealing with a big injury right now. His offense isn't spectacular. His defense is world class, but what was your reaction from the outside? I'm starting to like it. What do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean, the first thing I thought about is that Statue of Liberty glove and the pinstripes is going to be freaking sick. Like that is must watch just to
Yeah.
watch that outfit march out there. Initially I was kind of mixed on it. I know how much you like Bader, and I've always come to his defense and your defense. He's definitely the best defensive center fielder. Won't hear any other argument on it. But again, you kind of walked me off a little bit of a ledge once you got to a reasonable point, and I wasn't too worried. But just this idea of like, yeah, they need arms. They have the production. They have a platoon of outfielders that they can march out there. And again, if they didn't make this trade, that's almost what I think about. If they don't make the trade and all you do is Jose and that's your addition, I mean, that's them folding, right? If they didn't bring in an arm in this deadline, it is the Cardinals saying we have no interest in even trying to get Pujols another ring. So I like the move there. I definitely didn't see it coming, and I think from what I've seen, the Yankees were pretty locked in. They thought for sure they were getting Pablo Lopez from the Marlins, I've heard that they made the Montgomery trade going perfect, clear him out, bring in Pablo Lopez. They don't have him now. Still, they have four very good starters, so no love lost there. But I'm interested. I will be talking about Jordan Montgomery later in this podcast, so preview there.
Interesting.
But I
Yeah,
like
I,
the
I
pick.
mean,
I like it.
I think the Cardinals believe in Dylan Carlson. I mean, the dude is 23 years old. He's super young, and he can be an everyday center fielder for sure. Put him, Tyler O'Neill in left, and either Nootbaar, maybe Yepes, somebody in right, Brendan Donovan. We've got a lot of outfielders, and we don't have a lot of pitching. The trade makes sense. It just sucks to see Bader go. He's a class act. So that's it. The Yankees in St. Louis this weekend too. Bader's still out, but hopefully he's there. I'll be there for all three games. Very excited to see Montas and Montgomery. But some shockers here, James. One team that we expected to pretty much continue selling everything was the Chicago Cubs. They had Ian Happ and William Contreras, like showing so much emotion, hugging it out, waving to the fans at Wrigley before the deadline. They don't go anywhere. like, what do you what is this? What do you think this is? Were they just asking for too much back, or I mean, what happened?
I would just recommend everyone who's interested in this. Barstool Carl did a YouTube video on this from like the Cubs perspective last night. Really interesting. It's terrible. It makes no sense because you blew up the World Series team. Fair enough. Look, in baseball, eventually, outside of like 4 or 5 organizations, you have to blow up and kind of rebuild. But it's like you got 85% of the way there, didn't skin the rest of the cap for, because it's like at this point, just get it all over with, get all your prospects, get a timeline, figure out when to sign free agents, and let's move this thing. I don't know if like the hug, they're trying to keep the fans' emotions intact, but it's like if you're telling me that the market value isn't there to get the prospects you want out of this guy, are you going to sign into an extension? Why would you do that? It really baffles me. And the most confused people have to be Ian Happ and Contreras. I mean, because they're like, for sure we're going. I mean, he's collecting the ball after a single because he's like, I'm out there. Like you said, the romantic hug in the dugout, the whole nine, just from the wake up and go, yeah, you can keep playing. Like, we don't care. Again, we're the Cubs. They have no. It's like the Cubs before they got good. Like they have no clue really what they're doing. It's very confusing, Max. I have no clue. Like, are they trying to compete next year? Are they not? Like, I don't know.
Right. And to me, it seems like for Contreras specifically, like I don't think his trade value will get much higher than it is right now. I mean, he's getting up there in age. I think I might be wrong, but I think he's around 33. But he's having a career season in the middle of this season. He was the starting catcher for the National League All Star team. His trade value is not going to get much higher because it's super high right now. And I think that's maybe why they were allegedly asking for such a high price. But if I'm the Cubs, I'm sure somebody offered a decent enough package that you let him go. He just doesn't really do much for you. You're a team that's in full rebuild mode, and you have this all-star catcher who has super high trade value, who needs to be moved so you can continue this rebuilding process. I mean, where do they go from here? I think Contreras is a great guy to have on a roster that is rebuilding, right? Maybe that's their idea. They'll keep him around, kind of be the veteran presence. But it's not like this team is littered with young guys that are just now rising and could use his mentorship in the years to come. This team is years from being from being competitive again. So I just think it made sense to move him, and Ian Happ as well. But I guess
The
sometimes you're surprised at the deadline, and this is a big
the
surprise.
other thing is you have a couple World Series contender teams that needed a catcher. So like you had the right fit there as well. And again, even if the haul's not what you want, if there are two half decent prospects, your scouts tell you they are 50% chance they pan out, so one of them probably does, you should take that deal if you're the Cubs. I mean, again, without making this shift, they now have no timeline or parameters even on this rebuild. I mean, I have no clue when this, because this was it, part ways with these guys. Now it's officially like, we're going to win 30 games. Yeah, I'll be reasonable. We're going to win 55, 70 games for the next 3 years, build up a farm and go after it. Just no direction from the Cubs. So I was one of the most confusing situations. Other one who I'd say, I'm making a list. There's to me 3 organizations in baseball who are just full confusion, have no clue up from down. So I'll just highlight the other one being the Rockies, who were the only team to make 0 moves, to which their GM came out and said, well, we were the only team to sign a player to an extension on deadline day, which was false. But the Rockies are confused. And then another
Yeah.
one that I want to talk about, Max, the Boston Red Sox, which pit my head in a blender on trade deadline day, doing a strategy I've never seen before, Max, called buy and sell. They are selling their talent while acquiring more talent to maybe make. I mean, I don't understand it. They trade Christian Vasquez to kind of kick things off. You figure here comes the fire sale. No, and that's not what I forget. Who did they acquire? I know they got Eric Hosmer. Who did they trade for before him?
Yeah, they got Eric Hosmer after the whole San Diego fiasco where everybody thought the Soto deal was going to break. But it was an overreaction. Um, I'm trying to think too. Who did
I'm
they
blanking
get?
on it, but they acquired an outfielder. I'm pretty sure to play meaningful minutes. I can tell you're getting us a fact check, but it was just so confusing because it's like, so
Yeah.
you sold one of your better options and then continue to acquire things to maybe make a run at it, but you got rid of your talented catcher.
They got Tommy Pham.
Tommy Pham from the Reds. There we go. So again, nothing crazy,
Yeah.
but it's just like the buy and the sell strategy is something I don't think I've ever seen on a trade deadline. So shout out the Red Sox.
Yeah, because they acquired Pham and they acquired Eric Hosmer, two kind of veterans, honestly similar, right? They I think they played together in San Diego, or at least they both played in San Diego recently. Um, I know they were shopping Eovaldi and JD Martinez, didn't pan out. So now they're kind of in this weird spot where they're kind of on the outside looking in from the playoffs. They sure have the talent to get there, but really don't have a lot of pitching at all. Chris Sale's down again. Eovaldi's kind of one of their only pitchers. So it's a weird strategy. I think this offseason will say a lot about them with Xander and Rafael Devers and JD Martinez all needing to be paid or wanting to be paid, and whether the Red Sox want to do that now or not. Very interesting stuff from Boston. The Christian Vasquez thing was funny. He was out on the field in Houston warming up in Red Sox gear, and they pulled him off, and he had to go to the other locker room.
Yeah, it was tough. They, grabbed him like right out of the media, immediately broke it to him when they're trying to interview him, and the team official like pulling him out of the media huddle. So that was crazy. I think only other trade that I really need to touch on is, to me, one of the most confusing. I've had a lot of people in my DMs and mentions trying to educate me and explain to me. I can't for the life of me understand why the Los Angeles Dodgers thought going out and acquiring the biggest joke in New York Yankees history was going to be an effective play at the trade deadline. And again, like, I understand how good Joey Gallo was, who's the player I'm talking about on the Rangers. And I think he could be back. Look, the beard's coming back. Of course, in New York, they have their weird like rule from the 1400s where you can't have a beard and you can't have long hair, which has Harrison Bader's in rough shape. I don't know if you've seen pictures of him, but it's kind of tough scene there with him having follow their policy. But with the beard back, maybe Joey
That's
Gallo
funny.
gets active. But it's just like, to me, it's, you made the Dodgers a laughing stock in a way, because all I've seen out of all the Yankees people I follow, shout out Carlos, is just Gallo getting drugged through the mud and just ragged on. He has the lowest batting average for someone with 500 plate appearances in New York Yankees history. And so it's like you just take this giant joke and trade for him. And look, it probably works. I'll probably eat my words. Um, it's just like you just.
I think you will.
Now I will say, and you told me this, and I was thinking it beforehand anyways. Now, if it's an LA New York World Series, I'm pitting every dollar I own on the fact that Joey Gallo has a walk off. Like, that's going to be a must hit prop bet just out of like the story. But I just don't see the reason for it. You have Chris Taylor's coming back healthy. Trace Thompson's been a beast. James Outman is potentially the best hitter in the history of baseball, according to his first 10 at bats. Um, so I don't get it, but I don't
I
know.
mean,
Depth.
I think Joey Gallo, an interview came out either the day of the deadline or the day before, kind of talking to him about New York. It was pretty sad, honestly. He just talked about how he couldn't go in the street because the fans would jeer at him and yell at him, and he just never felt comfortable. I mean, this is a guy that strikes out a lot, right? He's kind of a two outcome hitter. Either strikes out or hits a home run. He's been like that his whole career. And I think this will be good for him. I think getting out of New York, going to the West Coast, pretty much getting as far away from New York as possible. I think it could be good for him. I think he could get back to his all star form. We'll see. I like it. Who did they gave up Beater, a right handed arm in the minor league system for him. He's going to be a good DH or he'll come off the bench. So it's good hitting depth, I think, for the Dodgers. And I like it. I like it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a move I saw coming. Look, they didn't really give up much. It's kind of is what it is. I'm just more like, oh my god, now we're the butt of New York Yankee jokes because we acquired their like burning pile of garbage. But again, Beard's back. He may hit 30 home runs in the next 40 games. Who knows? So that was really all the Dodgers did. I mean, nothing too notable. So they got Chris Martin, but
Yeah, I
that was
mean,
like a week before the deadline.
yeah, I mean, I think we that covers the deadline pretty well. I mean, we could rattle off other things like Whit Merrifield going to Toronto, Pablo Lopez not getting moved, Rodon and Jock not getting moved. But I think those were definitely the highlights.